We begin the Gemara today towards the bottom of Daf Chav Daled Amud Beis, where it says V'i B'Yisema, 4 lines from the bottom of the page. This is going back on the Mishnah, where the Mishnah said, in a case where a person was suspected of having a relation with an Eishes Ish, and then the husband divorced her, or perhaps the Bezdin sent her out. So the Mishnah said that then, if this person that was suspected went and got married to her, Yaitzi, he can't remain living with her. So Rabbi said that the Mishnah is talking about when there's Eidim that know that he was mizana with her. So then, if he went and got married to her, Yaitzi. But if it was just a rumor that people were saying this, then he doesn't have to be Maitzi. So the Gemara brought before over here 2 braises that proved that even if it was just a rumor, still Chachamim were geizer that he has to be Maitzi. And the Gemara gave answers to this. Now the Gemara will give another answer, and basically the Gemara is going to say that it's a machlokes. It's a machlokes Tanoim, and Rav is arguing with this Tana of the Mishnah, with the brisa that the Gemara is about to bring, and that explains these brises. These brises is going to go like the following Tana here. It's like the Gemara V'i B'Yisema Hani Mas Naise, the brises that we quoted before, where you saw in the brises that even if it was just a rumor, that's enough of a reason why a person is going to have to be Maitzi, this wife, if he went and married her. That's Rebbe. It's going according to Rebbe. The Tanya, so we learned in the Braisa that Rebbe says that even just with the rumor itself, we rely on that. Because it says, Rechel Yaitze, you had a peddler that's coming out of a person's house. And V'isha Chegeres B'Sinner. The husband comes in and he sees that his wife is dressing herself, and the sinner is like some kind of an undergarment. In other words, he sees that he has over here a very strong reason to believe that something not appropriate happened. Amar Rebbe, so Rebbe says, because this is something which looks very disgusting, Teitze, she has to leave her husband. Or another thing that he discovered, Roik l'mayla min hakila. You have the bed, and the bed has curtains around it, or it has a canopy, and he sees some spittle that's on the top, and that only comes because she was lying facing up. So that also is a sign that something inappropriate happened. So Amar Rebbe, hoyol u'mechur adavar, because this is disgusting, teitze. That's enough of a reason she has to leave him. Or then the Braisa says another thing, min olim hafuchim tachas hamita. If you found shoes that were upside down under the bed, and that you could see that this is from someone else that put it there. The Gemara is going to explain in a second what that means. Amar Rebbe, so Rebbe says, since this is disgusting, you see something inappropriate happen there, she has to leave her husband. So the Gemara explains this. What does this mean? Min holam afuchim. You found over there shoes under the bed that are upside down. So lechse de maninu. Look whose shoes these are. If they're shoes from a different person, so then you know, yeah, this person was here. Ella, what it means is makkei min holam afuchim. A person sees under the bed signs of the fact that somebody's shoes were there. There's no shoes there now, but he sees a makim, he sees that the space in the earth, you can see that someone had their shoes there. So it looks like someone was here. What do you see from all of this? That Rabbi's opinion is that even without Eidim, just by the fact that a person has certain signs to the fact that his wife did something inappropriate, that's enough of a reason why Teitzei. So according to Rabbi, we apply the same thing also regarding this person, that there's a rumor about him, that he was mizana with this woman. If later he goes and marries her, Teitzei. It's enough grounds for him to tell him that he has to send her away. But our Mishnah, and Rav is explaining our Mishnah, Rav is arguing with Rabbi. Rav says that only if you actually have Eidim, then if this person went and married her, then he's going to have to send her away. So the Gemara concludes here and says, V'hilchas kvasei de Rav. Now we paskin like Rav that it's only if there are Eidim, and v'hilchas kvasei de Rabbi. But we also paskin like Rebbe that even if it's just a rumor, or even if you have just these signs, that's enough of a reason that the husband would have to send her away, or the person that was mizana with her can't remain married with her. So the Gemara asks, Kashya hilchasa hilchasa. This is a contradiction. How could you say the halacha is like Rav and at the same time say the halacha is like Rebbe? So the Gemara answers, it depends on what situation. Loi Kashya, it's not a contradiction. Ha b'kala the pasik. If you have a rumor about this person, that he had relations with this woman, and that rumor stops, so that's one case. And habakala deloy pasik. And then there's a rumor that does not stop. The rumor continues going. So the Gemara explains, kala deloy pasik. If there's a rumor and the rumor does not stop, velek eidim. So then even if you don't have any witnesses saying that she was mizana, kerebi. And we paskin like Rebbe that we rely on this rumor that the husband has to divorce her and this person can't remain married to her if he does. Call it the pasik, but if you have a rumor that stops, then only if there are edim that are saying that this is what happened, then kerav. Then we paskin like Rav that you must have edim that the husband would have to send her away, or that this person that was mizana with her can't stay married to her. Now the Gemara explains, v'kala de pasik at kama. What does it mean that you have a rumor that does not stop? Until when? How long does that rumor have to be out there? The Gemara says not so long. Amma Abaye. So Abaye says, Amra li aim. Mother told me. So now this is not Abaye's actual mother. Abaye's mother passed away when he was born, but it's the mother that raised him. So she said, Doime de Masa, when you have a person in a city that's being suspected of doing something bad, Yoime o palga. That's if it's a day and a half you have this rumor about this, so then you know that this is something that's called a kol delay pasik, that for a day and a half it has not stopped. Now the Gemara explains, but v'loya maran ela delay pasik beini. That's only if in that time of a day and a half the rumor did not stop and start again. There was a rumor the entire day and a half everyone was speaking about this. Aval pasik beini, but if in between if there was a hefsik in the rumor about this, and then the people again started speaking about it, so then hapasak. So then because there was a hefsik in the middle, that's not called a koil that was not paisik. Koil is not paisik means that for a day and a half, the rumor is there and nobody disputes this rumor. If in the middle sometimes somebody disputed this rumor, so then that's not called a koil that wasn't nifsak. And this is only when we're talking about a koil over here that did not stop because of yira, because they're afraid of this person. This person that people are saying a rumor about him that he was mezana is a very strong person, or people are afraid of him. If that's the reason, if the reason why this rumor stopped is because people are afraid for him, so then machmas yirehu. So then we know the only reason why people stop talking about this is because they're afraid of him, that he might hurt them or whatever he'll do to them. When really the rumor is a solid source that something wrong happened here. And over here, when we say that there's a rumor that didn't stop and therefore she's usher, so that's only if there's no people that hate him. But if this is a person that has enemies, so then we can't rely just on the rumor. Because so then it's possible that he has a person that has enemies and they're the ones that let out this kind of a rumor against him. We learned in the Mishnah in Masechta Gittin. Person that divorces his wife because there was a shemer on her. There was a terrible rumor about her that she went and she was mezana, she had relations with someone, so he divorces her. Says the Mishnah, lo yachzer. Chachamim were misakin, that this person is never allowed to get remarried to his wife. Or similar, mishum neder, if a person divorces his wife because he sees that she has a neder, she made a certain neder that he can't handle living with her with such a kind of a neder, then lo yachzer. He's never allowed to remarry her again. So Rashi here brings the Gemara there that explains why not. Because we're afraid of what might happen over here if he divorces her. And then later he finds out that the rumor was not true. Or what happens if he divorces her and afterwards she goes and she's mata neder. And now she has no neder. What's the person going to do? He's going to come back and tell us, I have charata of the whole fact that I divorced my wife. I only divorced her because of the fact that there was a bad rumor about her, shemra, or because of the neder. But now that there's no shemra, and now that the neder is not a neder, my get is not a get b'chlal. So if that's what a person would come and say, this would be a major mess. What happens if she already got remarried, and she already had children from another marriage, and now it turns out retroactively that the whole get was not a get, so the children of the second marriage are going to be mamzerim, because she was really an Eishes Ish. So therefore Chachamim tell him, listen, if you're divorcing your wife for these reasons, make sure that you're really sure that you want to do this, because you're never going to be allowed to marry her again. So therefore, when he divorces her, he has to be 100% sure that he wants to divorce her. He can never come and change his mind later. That's the Takanas Chazal over there in that Mishnah. Says the Gemara, the question now is on this. The Gemara is bringing this because it's connected to our Mishnah here, as the Gemara now explains. Shalach le Rabbi Barav Huna, le Rabbi Barav Nachman. So Rabbi Barav Huna sent a question to Rabbi Barav Nachman. Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, my teacher should teach me. Konas ma'o sheyetzi. So this husband, we said that he's not allowed to go and get remarried to her later. He could never get remarried to her again. What happens if he did? What happens if he went and got remarried to her again? Against the Takana of Chazal. So is he allowed to stay married to her or yetzi? He has to divorce her, he has to send her away. Amalei. So you answered him, Tanina. We could learn this from the halacha that it says in our Mishnah. What does it say in our Mishnah? Hanitan alei shesish. If you have a case where there's a person that's suspected, there's a rumor about him that he had a relation with an Eishesish, and then Vaitziyum mitachas yadai, and her husband divorced her. Afal pishakonas yaitzi. So this person that there was a rumor that he was mizana with her, if he goes and gets married to her, yaitzi, he has to send her away. So the Gemara is comparing the case that we're speaking about over here, b'nigeya, to the case of our Mishnah. As you see from Rashi, the Gemara's question over here regarding the case that the Gemara brought in Masechta Gittin, the Gemara is asking specifically b'nigeya to a person that divorced his wife because of a shem ra, because there was a rumor that she was mizana, and then he went and got remarried to her. So the Gemara is comparing and saying, just like in our Mishnah, what are we saying? If there was a rumor that someone was mizana with this woman, we don't allow that individual, that person that we suspect him for being a boil, for having this relation, that he could go and get married to her. Because it doesn't look right. Look, there was a rumor that he had relations with her, and now her husband sends her away, and you go and get married to her. So it looks like that this is taka true, that you had some kind of relation with her. So the same thing the Gemara says would apply over here as well, in that Mishnah of Gittin. The very fact that you divorced your wife after the Shem Ra, that actually shows and confirms that there was something that you're relying on this Shem Ra, that there's something that was wrong that happened over here. That's why you went and divorced your wife, based on this Shem Ra. So if the fact that you sent her away confirms that, shouldn't be allowed to go and get married to her. And if you do, yaitzi, the same halacha should apply, that is, that you should have to divorce her. So the Gemara says, no, it's not a comparison. But the Gemara, malei midami, it's not the same thing. Why not? Hasam, over there, which actually refers to our Mishnah over here, haitzi uha. The Gemara already said before, the word that it says in our Mishnah is haitzi uha. Haitzi uha refers to Bezdin. Bezdin is the one that forced the husband to divorce his wife. Why? Because it's not just a rumor that there was over here. And the Chachamim were geyser and said that now you have to send her out, or he decided to send her out, and then Chachamim were geyser that this boil should not go and get married to her. Haitzi uha, Bezdin, there was Eidim here. There were Eidim that know what happened, and therefore Bezdin forced you to divorce your wife. That's why over there, if the boil would go and marry her, he has to be mitzi her. But v'hacha, over here in this Mishnah of Gittin, when there was a shame around this person's wife, haitzia. Over there the Mishnah says haitzia. He decided, over here it's talking about that he was mitzi his wife because of a shame ra, not because of the Bezdin. So maybe in such a case, when this person decided to be mitzi his wife because of a shame ra, and now this boil went and married her, so we don't really have Eidim. So over here it's only midrabbana that Chachamim were masakin that the boil should not get married to her. So maybe in such a case over here, that again, that's over here in the Mishnah in Gittin, it's actually not talking about a boil. It's just talking about that the husband divorced his wife. So over there, in that case, if the husband went and married her, so because there was no Eidim, who says if he married her, he would have to be mitzi her? Rabbi Barav Nachman, and Rabbi Barav Nachman will respond to this distinction and say, Masnisan nami yitziat nan. In the Mishnah by us, in the Mishnah is also guided haitzia, not haitzi uha, that the Bezdin had Eidim and therefore they were mitzi, but haitzia, that there was just a rumor and the husband himself decided to divorce her, and now this boil comes along and gets married to her. So even in our Mishnah, the whole Inyan was not based on Eidim. It's not minat Torah that you're not allowed to go marry her because there are no Eidim. It's just a takonim midrabanan that the boil should not go and marry her. And still, what does it say in our Mishnah? Even though it's only midrabanan, if the boil goes and marries her, he still has to divorce her. He still has to send her away. So therefore, we could compare it to that Mishnah in Gittin as well. When a person there's a bad rumor on his wife, and because of that he divorces her, he can't go and get remarried to her again. Says the Gemara, but vakati midami. It's still not the same thing. Why? Because hachabal over here, our question regarding that Mishnah in Gittin was a question about the husband himself. When he sends away his wife because of a bad rumor, and now he wants to go and remarry her. That's what we're talking about over here. But v'hasam bayil, over here in our Mishnah, what were we talking about? There was a rumor that somebody had relations with this wife, and that very person now goes and marries her. That's much worse. As Rashi says, when you talk about the boil, that's a dova meguna, that's a disgusting thing. That very person that there was a rumor about him, that he had relations with this wife, he goes now ahead and marries her. Over here, it's much worse if he marries her, and here Chachamim were masakin, that he's not allowed to marry her, and even if he does, but he has to send her out. But benegay to the husband himself that sent out his wife, and then later he decides that he wants to go ahead and get remarried to her, even though Chacham said he's not allowed to, maybe over here, once he did, he doesn't have to divorce her again, he doesn't have to send her away. It's not the same thing. Amalei, so no, he answers him back and says, no, still they are compared. Shapir domi adodi. We could compare these two cases to one another. Why? Because the point is, in both cases, it's only midrabanan that you're not allowed to marry her. It's not minat Torah. Over here, regarding this husband that divorced his wife because of a shame ra, it's the Rabbanan that were misaken that he should not remarry her. There were no Eidim here, it's just the Rabbanan. So therefore, Vim Kanas Yaitzi, and therefore if he marries her, Yaitzi, he has to divorce her. So Hachanami, Amri Rabbanan La Yachzer. So over here as well, the Chachamim say that he should not remarry her. So again, the way to read this Gemara is again, Hacha Amar Rabbanan. Over here, the Hacha goes on our Mishnah here. Hacha Amar Rabbanan. Over here, the Mishnah said, when there's a rumor that somebody had a relation with this woman, so now this Bayil should not go and marry her. That's all exedim with the Rabbanan, because according to this Gersa in the Mishnah, it says Haitzia. There was no Edom over here, Bechlal. So over here, it's all with the Rabbanan, the thing that he should not remarry her, and I should not go at the Bayil, that is, should not go and marry her. And on that we say Vim Konas Yaitzi. So Hachanami over here as well in the Mishnah of Gittin, Amri Rabbanan Lo Yachzeh. The Rabbanan say that this person that divorced his wife because of a bad rumor about what she did, he should not remarry her. But Vim Konas Yaitzi. But if he did marry her, she should still be mitzi. So the comparison is that in both cases it's just exedim with the Rabbanan. But the Gemara answers in the end, and it goes back to the svar basically that it said before, v'loihi. But it's still not a comparison. Why not? Hasa malumi al milakala. Over there, and this refers to our Mishnah over here, when the Bayil goes ahead and marries this woman, when there was a rumor that he's the one that had a relation with her, by him getting married to her, he's sort of confirming and strengthening this whole rumor. Look, there's a rumor that he had relations with her before she was divorced, and now he's actually going and getting married to her. That looks terrible. He's the whole person that was the rumor about. So he's strengthening this rumor by doing this. So it's a much bigger problem, and therefore he has to divorce her, even b'di'evet, after he got married to her. But over here, regarding the question of the Mishnah in Gittin, so we're talking about a husband that divorced his wife because of a shem ra. And then afterwards he decides he wants to get remarried to her. So over here, Amrinon, you know what we'll say? Come be'bekala v'lesa. Originally there was a rumor, and he was very upset about it, so he divorced her. But then he verified the facts, and he discovered that there was nothing wrong, so now he's deciding to get remarried to her. So the fact that he's getting married to her does not confirm the rumor, adarabah. It shows that he discovered the fact that the whole rumor was a lie. So therefore, once even the Chazal were misaken that he should not marry her, but b'di'evet, if he did marry her, he should not have to be mitzi, this wife. Zok the Mishnah, Hamevi.
He's going to marry to show that the rumor is not true.
The what? By the Bayil.
The Bayil.
Yeah.
Rumor.
Okay, good. But people are going to say, look, there was a rumor already before the fact that he was mezana with her, and look, his istachemes, he had a relation with her. V'haraye decided to get married to her afterwards. Doesn't look good. If a person brings a get from overseas, from outside Eretz Yisrael, this is a halacha, a mishnah in the beginning of Masechta Gittin, that when a shliach delivers a get from outside of Eretz Yisrael, so when he brings a get, he gives the get to the isha, he has to say, "B'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam," that I was there, it was signed in front of me, it was written in front of me, and then once he says that eidos, so that's then the get is going to be kosher, and then even if the husband is going to come and try to be ma'arer and say that it's not a good get, we will rely on his testimony of b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam. So v'ama b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam, he comes along and says that it was signed and it was written and signed in front of me. So then the halacha is lo yisa es ishtay. He's not allowed, this individual, this shliach, that we relied on him for the kashrus of the get, he's not allowed to be the one to go ahead and marry this wife. Why not? Because Rashi says we're relying on him. We're relying on his edus. Whether so that the husband shouldn't come to be ma'arer. Rashi actually says another pshat, which the Gemara there also says, because the people outside of Eretz Yisrael are not baki to write a get l'shma, so we need him to come and testify that it was written l'shma. Point is, because we're relying on his edus, it doesn't look good that we're relying on him, and now he's going to be the one that's going to go and get married to this woman. So the Gemara Mishnah weiter, Meis, if a person comes along and testifies in Bezdin, your husband died, haraktiv, I killed him, haragnuhu, we killed him. Okay, so we're talking over here in all these cases that there's an Eid Echad. An Eid Echad that's testifying, even in the last case, Haragnu, doesn't mean that there are two Eidim that are testifying that we killed your husband. One person says that I'm testifying that we killed your husband. He should not go ahead and marry this woman. Why? Because again, he's coming and testifying. He's the one, we're relying on him for this testimony. And he's saying that he killed this person's wife, for sure in that case. So he's not allowed to go and get married to her. But Rashi points out right away, which the Gemara will discuss, only this person that said the Eidus, he's not allowed to marry her. But anybody else could marry her. We do rely on that. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda says, haraktiv. If a person comes and says an Eidus, again he's an Eid Echad, and he says Eidus, haraktiv, that I went and killed your husband, lo tinasei ishtay. Nobody is allowed to get married to this woman. We don't rely on this Eidus b'chlal. Not only because it doesn't look good for him to go and get married to her, but b'chlal, nobody can get married to her. Why not? So Rashi here explains, because if he's saying I killed her, so that means that he's saying that I'm a Rasha. I'm a Ritzeyach, that I killed her. So if that's the case, we can't rely on the words of a Rasha for an Eidus. Pasuk says, Al Toshes Rasha Eid. A Rasha is not an Eid. So how could we rely on his Eidus that he says that he killed his wife? So nobody can get married to her. But the Mishnah says, Haragnuhu, if he comes and says, Eidus, we killed him, then Tinas Ishte. Then his wife could get married. So this is very difficult to understand. The Gemara will explain what's the difference over here. If he says, we killed her, it should be the same thing. He's a Rasha. So why should we rely on this Eidus? The Gemara will explain what it means. What did it say in the Mishnah? If a shliach is bringing the get from overseas, so over here the point is that we're relying on the testimony of the shliach for the kashrus of the get itself. So we're mamish relying on him. So therefore he can't be now the one to go and get married to her. It doesn't look good. But if he's delivering the get as a shliach from one location to another in Eretz Yisrael itself, and over here he does not have to say b'fana nichta b'fana nechta, so then the lav aleka samchina, we're not relying on him. Yisa sishtai. So over here, even though he was the shliach that brought the get, he's still allowed to marry her. Right? Even though he still is the shliach, I mean, he is the one that brought the get here. But still, just the fact that you're a shliach, so you're doing a technicality. You're bringing the get from one location to another. But with the kashrus of the get, we're not mamish relying on you. So in such a case, you would be allowed to marry her. If so, there's a problem with the next case of the Mishnah. If so, when a person comes along and testifies and says, I testify your husband passed away. The lav alei kasamchinan. This is a kind of eidus. He's saying an eidus as an eid echad. We're not really relying on him to allow the wife to go and get married. Why not? It's his eidus that we're relying on. So the Gemara brings, and this is something that we'll discuss later in the Masechta extensively, the Amar, because it was explained, why do we allow a woman to get married only with an eid echad? You should need two eidim to be mater and ish. The answer is because isha daiko and minsava. Because a woman is very, very careful before she goes ahead and gets remarried. She makes her own research to be sure that her husband Taka passed away before she goes ahead and gets remarried. So really, we're relying on her research. We're not really relying on the aid that came and said that this person passed away. So if so, the case where the person testifies that your husband passed away is similar to the case of a shliach delivering a get in Eretz Yisrael, where we're not relying on him for the kashrus of the get. He's just doing a delivery. He's just doing a shlichus. So the same thing over here, when this person comes and says meis, that testimony, we're not really relying on him. We're relying on her to be medayik. And the Katani, what does it say in the Mishnah? Lo yisa sishtay. That because he's the one that said the testimony that your husband passed away, so he can't go ahead and marry her. Why not? If we're not really relying on him, why can't he get married to her? Answers the Gemara, there's a difference. Hasam lekik save. In the case when a person says meis, so even though we're not fully relying on him, we're relying on the woman that's medayik, but nevertheless, he's the one that said the edus. There is no document here, in addition, that we're relying on. But hacha ikiksave, when the shliach brings a get, so it's not only the fact that we don't need him to say b'fanai nichta b'fanai nechtam, there's also actually a ksav. There's a ksav of a get that he has in his hands. That's what we're relying on. And therefore, he can go and get married to this wife, because he's just doing a shlichus, and there's a ksav of a get that we're relying on. The Tanan, and we learned a similar thing in a Mishnah. The Mishnah asks a question, Ma ben get lemisa. What is the difference between a get or to say testimony about a husband that passed away? So this is a Mishnah that's brought later in the end of the Masechta. So over there are different people that are pasal edus, different women that are pasal edus to say about a woman's husband that passed away, a mother-in-law, all kinds of different ones that we're suspect. We don't trust them, but nevertheless, they are believed to deliver a get and say the edus of b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam. That edus they are trusted for. So the question is, why is it that to come and say edus that your husband passed away, we don't trust these people, but to come and bring a get and say b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam, we do trust them. So the Mishnah there says the difference is shaksav mechiach. When you're bringing a get, since you have a physical get that's mechiach, that there's a divorce here, so we rely on that. Even for these different kinds of people that there could be suspicions that they might lie, we rely on the get itself. But when it comes to saying edus that your husband passed away, there is no ksav that you're relying on. In the end of the day, this person is coming and saying that edus, even though we're also relying on isha daike or mitzvah, that there is a maila. In a certain sense, there is a maila in the case when you say edus that your husband passed away, because we know the woman's going to be medayik. But on the other hand, there's a certain chesed in there. You don't have a ksav of a get. So therefore, in such a case, we don't rely on the edus of these people. Sagt the Gemara, it said in the Mishnah, Meis, haraktiv, haragnu, lo yisa sishtay. If a person says edus as an eid echad, that the husband died, I killed him, or we killed him, so he is not allowed to marry this woman. So what the Gemara is medayik, hu niu de lo yisa sishtay. The Tana Kama's opinion is he can't marry this woman, this wife. But we do rely on his edus that someone else could go get married to her. It's only that for him it doesn't look right that he's the one that said this edus, so he's marrying her. But someone else could. Sagt the Gemara, why is that though? Why do we b'chlal rely on his edus even for anybody else? But Rav Yosef said, what happens if a person comes and says the following edus? Ploini rovani lo'oinsei. That Pliny had relations with me against my will. So basically this is the Isser of Mishkav Zachar. Two men that had a relation with one another, and you're saying edus about someone else that he had relations with me against my will. Okay, so you're coming to say edus on that person that is chayev misa for what he did. So what's the halacha? Do we accept the edus that you said? So Rav Yosef says, yeah, hu v'acher mitzdarfen laharga. So if you and someone else combines to you, so now you have two edim, they are combined to one another, and we could be mechayev that person misa. But what if there's one difference in what he said? He said liritzaini. A person comes and says, I say edus on Pliny that he had relations with me with my consent. So now basically you're saying rashahu. So you're saying about yourself that you're a rasha, that you did this aveda as well. So if you're a rasha, so your edus is not accepted. A rasha is not an edus b'chlal. So therefore, how can we rely on you? So even if someone else is with you, there's no edus here. So the question of the Gemara is, the same should be in our Mishnah. If a person comes and says, haraktiv, I killed your husband. How are we relying on this edus for someone else to go and get married to her? The Tana Kama said, you can get married to her, it doesn't look right. You killed her and now you're getting married to her. But someone else could. But if you're saying you killed her, you're a ritzayach, you're a rasha. How could we rely on your edus? So Dr. Gemara, now maybe you'll say that our mission is different. Shani edus isho da akilu barabanan. When it comes to the edus, saying testimony for a woman that her husband passed away, Chachamim were more lenient. Why were Chachamim more lenient? So this is connected to the point that we learned before, because really we're relying on the woman herself to make her own investigation and to be medayik. And really the reason why Chachamim B'chlal were relying on the woman and were mekel, the Gemara will later say, because it's a case of an aguna. Regarding an aguna, Chachamim were very mekel in different things to allow her to get remarried. So maybe we'll say that, yeah, this halacha taka of a rasha being pasal edus, that's for a regular edus. You want to be mechayiv someone misa, you can't rely on such a edus. But over here, to use the edus to be matir and aguna, maybe Chachamim will mekel, and even though he's a rasha, he's pasal min atayra for edus, maybe we accept this edus. Frek the Gemara, but that's not true, because Rav Menashe said, Gazlon de devreyem kosher desisha. If you have a case of a psul midrabanan, a person that's a gazlon midrabanan, that Rashi brings over here, we had this in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, mafricha yainim misachik bekuvia, people that are gambling in different kinds of games in different kinds of ways, that midrabanan, it's considered to be gzeila, person that engages in those things. So midrabanan is pasal edus. So those psulim that are only midrabanan will be kosher to testify for a woman that her husband passed away. That's the kol chacham will mekel for her. But Gazlan de Divrei Teire, Pasal Eidus Isha. But if a person is actually a Gazlan, we know, confirmed Gazlan, and therefore Minat Teire is Pasal Eidus, so that's going to be Pasal Eidus even for a woman to testify that her husband passed away. So therefore over here, this person is a Rasha, he's a Ritzeach. So how are we accepting his Eidus according to the Tanakama that she can go and get remarried to someone else? Okay, so now the Gemara says, so if so, maybe we should say that this goof is the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rav Yehuda. What did Rav Yehuda say in our Mishnah? Rav Yehuda in our Mishnah said that the Eidus of Haraktiv, we don't accept his Eidus, Leitinasi, she can't get married to anybody. We don't accept his Eidus at all. So maybe Taka, this is the machlokes between the Tanakama and the Rav Yehuda in the Mishnah. The Gemara explains, so let's say Rav Menashe that said that an Eidus that's possible Minat Teire is not accepted for the Eidus of a woman that she could get remarried. Rav Yehuda. Maybe what he said only goes according to Rav Yehuda in our Mishnah. Rav Yehuda in our Mishnah said she can't get married to anybody. But maybe the Tanakama disagrees. The Tanakama says the Kula for this kind of Eidus goes so far that even for a Psul Minat Teire, we still accept this Eidus. So in other words, this point that Rav Menashe says is exactly the point that the Tanakama and Rav Yehuda were arguing about. Says the Gemara, no, not necessarily. So Amalach Rav Menashe will answer you and say, no damri afilu l'Rabbanan. What I said, that the kula, that they will makel for a woman to get remarried, is only for a psul midrabanan and not for a psul minat Teire, that could fit even according to the Tanakam of our Mishnah, the Rabbanan. The time with the Rabbanan, you had a question. So if so, why is this Eidus accepted here? A person saying haraktiv, he's a Rasha minat Teire. So how can we accept this Eidus at all? Answers the Gemara, the reason is hacha keder Rava. The reason is like what Rava said. Rava argued with Rav Yosef. Rava says, the Omar Rava said, and here the Gemara is very bekitzer, but the point of what Rava is saying is, this is a concept that's known in Shas as palginon dibura. When you have an Eidus, you have to split the Eidus into half. Part of it you accept, and part of it you don't accept. So let me just go back a second. What did Rav Yosef say? Rav Yosef says, when a person says, Ploini Ravani L'Ritzaini, Ploini had relations with me with my consent, you're saying you're a Rasha. So if you're a Rasha, none of your Eidus is accepted. The Rasha of an Eidus is not accepted at all. Rava says you have to split it. Adam Karev Eitzel that we don't, the fact that he's saying that he's a Rasha, we don't fully accept that. The only aspect of what we accept of what he's saying that he's a Rasha is regarding himself. We say that a person is a karev to himself. A person cannot say Eidus on himself for anything. The only time actually where we find that a person can say Eidus on himself is regarding money. But otherwise, a person is a karev to himself. A karev is pasala Eidus, and the person that you're closest to is to yourself. So a person cannot say this on himself, and therefore and therefore if you come and say that I am a Rasha, that aspect of your Eidus we don't accept. So therefore in this case, when a person says Ploini Ravani L'Ritzaini, regarding yourself, that you're saying that it was done with my consent and I am a Rasha, that aspect we don't accept of what you're saying. But on the other hand, what you were saying about the other person, that he did this Aveda, that you do accept. Because we don't accept the fact that you're a Rasha. How do we know that you're a Rasha? We don't accept the fact that Lagabe yourself, when you're saying that I am a Rasha, you can't make yourself a Rasha based on this Eidus, because you can't say Eidus on yourself. But Lagabe, the Eidus that you're saying on the other person, that is accepted. For that you're not a Karev, and therefore the Eidus on him is accepted. Because again, we're not, Rav Yosef holds that we're confirming the fact that he's a Rasha. Once he says that L'Ritzaini, we say that automatically we know already that you're a Rasha. So now you can't say any Eidus at all. Mashenkin Rav says, no, we split it. Lagabe yourself, so on yourself you can't say I'm a Rasha. But Lagabe someone else, your Eidus is accepted, because we don't know that you're a Rasha. How do we know you're a Rasha? Only based on what you said. You can't make yourself a Rasha. So therefore for the other person, to be Mechayiv him Misa, your Eidus is accepted. So what's the Gemara saying? It's the exact same thing in our Mishnah. When a person comes and says, Eidus, that I killed your husband, so Lagabe making himself a Rasha, that I am the Reitzeyach, for that we don't accept his Eidus. He's not, we don't accept it that he's a Rasha. But Lagabe, this woman, that her husband Taka died, and that she's now mutter to go get married to somebody, for that we do accept it. That's where the Tanakama holds, that she can go and get remarried to anybody else. So now the Gemara now says, so now let's go back to our Mishnah. Maybe we should say the machlokes of the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah said that you can't get married to anybody. So maybe that the machlokes of the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda is based on this machlokes of Rav Yosef and Rava. So now if so, let us say Rav Yosef to Amak Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Yosef that says that once he says Eidus that I am the Reitzeyach, we accept the fact that he's a Rasha, and therefore his Eidus is not accepted at all. That's exactly what Rabbi Yehuda was saying in our Mishnah, that you can't get married to anybody. So Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is only according to Rabbi Yosef. So the Gemara answers and says, no, the reverse of what we said before. Amalach Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef will answer you, Anad the Amri afilu l'Rabbanan. I'll tell you that what I'm saying goes even according to the Rabbanan's opinion in the Mishnah that says that she could get remarried to someone else. According to Rav Yosef, we don't accept the Eidus at all. How could she get remarried? Vishani Eidus Isha da kilu barabanan. Because over here we're talking about the Eidus for a Isha to be allowed to get remarried, and here there's a special kula, and that kula goes so far that even for a psul minat Torah we still allow that kula. Rav Menashe, the Omek Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Menashe says the kula does not go so far. We don't accept this kula when there's a psul minat Torah. Rav Menashe will go according to Rabbi Yehuda, and then according to Rabbi Yehuda, the kula is only for a psul midrabanan and not a psul minat Torah. So basically, it comes out from this Gemara. The machlekes of the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah can be explained in two ways. Either they're arguing about the kula that they will make for an aguna. How far does that kula go? Does that kula go even by a psul minat Torah or not? Tanna Kama holds it does apply even by a psul minat Torah, and Rabbi Yehuda holds it does not. Or the second shot would be they're arguing about the machlekes of Rav and Rav Yosef, whether you say palgin and dibura. Tanna Kama holds you say palgin and dibura so she could get remarried, and Rabbi Yehuda holds you don't say palgin and dibura. We now know that he's a rasha, so we don't accept his eidus at all. The next part of the Mishnah it said haraktiv chulu haragnu tinose chulu. So the Mishnah made a difference according to Rabbi Yehuda. If he says, I killed your husband, so then she can't get remarried. If he says, we killed him, she could. What's the difference? Either way, he's saying on himself that he was involved in this, that he killed a husband. Rabbi Yehuda, no, that's not the pshat of the Mishnah. But Omer, when it says haragnu, what he really was saying was, Aniya yisiyim hargav. Not that I was together, I also killed your husband, but I was just present there when others killed your husband. So then, he's not making himself a rasha at all. So the Gemara Vatanya, I'll bring you a raya to this. The Vatanya over here means that we see in the Brayser from the conversation of Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanna Kama and the Rabbanan, that this is the pshat of haragnu. Amru Laila Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Yehuda as follows. There was a story with an individual that was a ganef, and the government caught him as a ganef. They were taking him out to execute him. B'mezigas or b'megizas kaputkiya, in this place that passes through, that you go through over there in the city Kaputkiya. That's where the story happened. And so before they executed this person, so he tells the people that are there, go tell the wife of Shimon ben Kayin, I killed her husband when I entered into the city of Lud. In other words, before they were executing him, he wanted that this woman should not remain in Aguna. So this ganef that's about to be executed says, he's saying Eidus now, I killed her. That's basically the case of our Mishnah, haraktiv, I killed her. Of Amrila, others say that he said, when he was going into the city of Lud, I killed him. Either way, this listim, this Ganev was saying, Eidus, that I killed him. And what happened? They trusted, they accepted his Eidus, and they allowed his wife to get remarried. So this is a question of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said that if this person comes and says Eidus, haraktiv, I'm the one that killed him, we don't accept his Eidus because he's a Rasha. So Rabbi Yehuda responds, it's not a raya from there. Misham raya, from there is a raya. But Omer, when this guy that was a Ganev, that was about to be executed, what he said was, Aniya yisim hargav. He didn't say that I actually killed your husband. He said that go and tell her that I was with the people that killed your wife, or your husband, that rather. But not he himself. So in other words, here we see the point that we touched before, that haragnu means that he was with the people that killed your husband. But wait a minute, there's another problem here. Even if he's not the reitzeyach, but v'halistim ketani. Doesn't it say here that this guy was a ganev? They were executing him as being a ganev. So if he's a ganev, for that itself he should be posel eidus. Says the Gemara, no shenitfas al yedei listiyos. He was together with a bandit, with a band of ganovim, but he himself was not a ganev. Fragt the Gemara, but it says it says that they're taking him out to execute him. Doesn't that mean that they caught him in the Geneva? And that's why they're executing him over here now. So he should be pasaladas just for that. Says the Gemara, no. These courts of the Goyim, the Ledaiki, the Kotli, they're not particular, they did not make a proper investigation, and they're still going and executing him. So therefore, just because they're executing him for being a listim, it doesn't mean that he's pasaladas. So therefore, they could accept his edus. Sagt der Heilige Mishneh, ha-chacham, a similar halacha to before, ha-chacham she'asar es isha. A chacham that came and told a woman, she'asar es isha b'neder al-baila. A woman made a neder that she can't have relations with her husband, or whatever neder she made, not to have a no from her husband, and now she comes to a chacham to be mata neder, and the chacham said, sorry, I can't be mata neder, you're asar to your husband. So if the husband divorces his wife, this chacham should not go and get married to her. Again, the reason is because it looks very suspicious that he's not being mat to her neder, and then he divorces, and he goes and gets remarried to her. But yeah, or I mean, it's not mamish negei b'davar, but in other words, he says he couldn't be mat to her, and now it doesn't look nice if he goes and gets married to her. What happens if this is a woman that's a katana that was married to someone and she could do miyun, and she came to the bezdin and the bezdin did miyun, or she did chalitza in front of this chacham? So then Yisa Ena. Then this chacham could go and get married to her if he's the one that did the miyun or the chalitza. Why? Bezdin. Because then the miyun and the chalitza is not just one chacham. Chalitza and miyun has to be with 3 people. So if it's 3 people that are doing the miyun and the chalitza, we're not suspecting 3 people that they collaborated in order for this one person to be able to go and get married to her. So what do you understand here from the Mishnah? Reason why this looks very suspicious is because he didn't want to be mata neder, and now the husband divorced her. What happened though if he was mata her neder, and then for whatever reason still the husband divorces her? He is allowed to go marry her. There's no suspicion here. So like the Gemara explains now, what are we talking about over here? Are we talking about one chacham? So chad mi matzi mater? Is one chacham have the ability to be mater and neder? L'chayri doesn't have the ability to be mater and neder. You have to have Omar Rav Ami, or Rav that is Omar Rav Chiya bar Ovin, Omar Rav Amram, Tana. We learned in the Braisa, Tanas Nadarim b'shloisha. You have to have 3 people to be mater and neder. So therefore, if you have 3 people, so then why should there be any difference if it was mater the neder, or even if he asked her? So even if you have ve'ela, so ve'ela betlos, so you have to say that it was 3 people. If so, michashidi, are 3 people suspected that now one of them asked her on her husband because he wants to go and get married to her? But vatnan, it says afterwards in the Mishnah, miyanoi shechaltza b'fanov, that if there was miyun or chalitza that was done in front of the 3 people, it's just a bezdin yiseno, that he could go and get married to her because mipnei yishu bezdin. Answers the Gemara, lo'olam b'chad. No, the pshat in the reish of the Mishnah, when there was a chacham that asked her neder, really it is talking about one person. You were medayik. It's mashma that one person could be mated the neder. Where do you see that one person could be mated the neder? Zok the Gemara, kedam Rav Chisda, Rav Yechanan. Because Rav Chisda said in the name of Rav Yechanan, biyachid mumche. A yachid that's a mumche could be mater a neder. Hachanami biyachid mumche. When you have a yachid mumche, that's what our Mishnah is speaking about. Then in such a case, if he asked the neder on her husband, on this woman on her husband, that doesn't look good, he shouldn't get married to her. Then the Mishnah said, so then if the miyan or the chalitza was done, so the Mishnah said, because they're a bezdin, so there's no chashad over here. Says the Gemara, time of the bezdin, or the time of the bezdin. So you see from the Mishnah is only because there's a bezdin, which is 3. But if it would be 2 people that are doing the miyan or the chalitza, then we would not say that you are allowed to go get married to her. In other words, we are concerned. 2 people maybe did collaborate with one another in order for you to be able to go and get remarried to her. There is still a chashad on 2. Only on 3 there's no chashad. Why is this? How is this different from this that we learned? If you have Edom that signed on a document regarding a sale of a field, or Val Get Isha, Edom that signed on the get of a Isha, Chachamim are not concerned about this. Let's say this person that now signed on this document went and buys this field from the buyer. We're not going to be concerned, maybe you only signed on the document because you wanted to then go and buy the field from him. Or you signed on the get only because you wanted to go and one of the Eidim went and married this woman. We're not concerned about that. Why? Because it's two Eidim. For two Eidim, we don't have a chashad. If so, why in our Mishnah does it say only because it's a bezdin? Even for two people, there should also not be any chashad here. And says the Gemara, you're right. The truth is, even on two people, there's no chashad. But he gufa kamash malan. The Mishnah here is saying here this point itself regarding how many people do you need for a miyun or for chalitza. That la'afuke mimanda amar miyun b'fnei shnayim. He's just coming to exclude from the opinion that says that for miyun it's enough to have two people. Kamash malan miyun begimel. He wants to tell you this halacha that for miyun you need three people. So it's a side halacha that the Tana is teaching me that for miyun you need three people. But be'emes mitzad chashad, two people is enough that there shouldn't be any chashad. So let's just finish with the Mishnah here. Ibayalu, a question was asked. Kanas, so in such a case regarding the chacham that we said that he's not allowed to get married to her, or Rashi says also in the previous case in the previous Mishnah regarding a person that brought a get and he's not, and he said before nichtav and he's not allowed to get married to her. Ma'o sheyotzi. If he did get married to her, will he have to divorce her? Rav Kahana makonas maitzi. If he married her, he does have to divorce her. Rav Ashia makonas eina maitzi. If he got married to her, b'diyeved, he does not have to divorce her. So he learned like that opinion that says that if he married her, he does not have to divorce her. Rabbana said to Rav Ashi, Gemara Eisvara. You're saying so because you have a tradition that this is the halacha without any reasoning? Eisvara. Or you have a reason why you're paskening this way. Amalahu, so I said to them, Masnisani. I'm saying in this case that if any of the chacham or the person that brought the get was not allowed to get married to this woman and did, that he doesn't have to be mitzi based on the Mishnah that we learned before. The Mishnah said, Anitan mishivcha v'nishtachira mevedes kechavim v'nizgaira. If there's a suspicion that a person had a relation with a shivcha kananis or with a guy and they became geidim or geyidis. So it doesn't look good. He's not allowed to get married to them. But then the Mishnah said, Vim kanas e mitzi. But if he did get married to her, then he doesn't have to divorce her. Alma, what do I see from that Mishnah? Birinana leimafkinon. Just because there's people that are going to speak and say things that it doesn't look good, it looks suspicious, for that reason alone, even though for this reason, you shouldn't go and get married to this woman, but that's not enough of reason that if you did get married to her, that you should have to divorce her. Hanami over here as well regarding this chacham or regarding this person that brought the get and said b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam, even though you're not allowed to get married to her, but b'rinana leimafkinon. If you did get married to her, b'diyevet, you're not going to have to divorce your wife.